I said before, I don't think the Clippers could win a championship, if they don't do certain things. And, it's not just on the players, it's on the coaching staff too. I mean, it's got to be a collective effort all the way around. There can't be any confusion or anything like that because everybody needs to know their role. Everybody needs to play it at a high level, and everybody needs to go out there and play it at the highest level possible when they're on the floor. And my main thing, with the Clippers more than anything right now specifically, of course, we can always talk about health and all that stuff, but my main thing with them right now specifically is when I watch them play as a team, as a unit, they're going out there, as I said a couple videos ago, on their talent. They're playing on their talent. And talent-wise, they're more talented than any other team in the NBA just about. But that's not all it takes to win championships. You got to have that continuity. And they know that as a team. They know that. Players, Marcus Morris was one of the players who has said it. And, hell, even Ty Lewis said it. I mean, they all know this, but they're not really playing with that type of gel that they should. And I know that there's been injuries with this team. They're still trying to get acclimated to John Wall and a few others. But even still, they still should, their schedule, this part of the season has been very, very manageable, easy, most people would say, their first 6-7 games of the season. And right now, I think they should be, 5-2 at the least. If you ask me, I think that's what their record should be right now. With or without Kawhi Leonard, they should be 5-2 because they haven't had no hard opponents to where they couldn't, come out as the victor in the situation. But to me, their biggest problem that I see that I have not been seeing is that when I watch them play, they don't have an identity. And that really, when you want to be a championship team, you got to have an identity. You can't, no team has ever won a championship or was predicated as a championship team or looked at as a championship team without an identity. It just doesn't work. It doesn't even make sense, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? You got to either be a stout team on defense or you got to be such an offensive juggernaut that nobody can contend with you on the floor, on the offensive side of the basketball, or, you're good on both ends of the floor. You're just as equally as talented offensively as you are defensively, and that's your identity as a team. And I think that's what the Clippers would be looked at as if they were not only healthy, everybody on the team playing, but I think they would look more like that, more so if the coaching staff pushed them that way. And I feel like Ty Lue, he allows a lot of freedom and freestyle, gameplay during workouts and practice and things like that. Players that have played for Ty Lue have said that throughout the years of him coaching, and that's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that definitely plays, a level of comfortability for the players where they feel comfortable in their own skin. They're out there playing, having a good time, and trying to gel one another. But at the same time, there has to be some restrictions there as well. And I'm not saying Ty Lue doesn't do these things, but what I'm saying is the way they play carefree sometime, the way the Clippers can play so carefree, like thoughtless sometime when they go against certain opponents, it's almost as if the Clippers flip that switch when they choose to. Like sometimes when they really choose to lock down and play the way they're supposed to, they can beat anybody in the NBA when they really choose to play that way and when they're healthy. But at times, and this goes back to a couple of years ago, actually, even when there were times when they weren't healthy, they were healthy as a team. I mean, we can go back into the playoffs about 2 years ago when Kawhi Leonard got hurt against Utah. Against the Mavericks and against Utah, they were down 2-0 in each series. Matter of fact, they were down 2-0 in every series, even after Kawhi got hurt and they went to play the Suns. They were down 2-0 in that series. And this is my point with the Clippers. Even with all the players they have on the floor, even with all their players, they've always played lackadaisical at times. And over time, you tend to think and you tend to wonder why that is. Because if you're going to play lackadaisical at times and things like that, well, in the long run, your gameplay is going to suffer because you can't take any moment, any time, anything you're doing at anywhere you are. You can't really take nothing for granted. You have to understand that, this is an opportunity for you to be at your best. This is an opportunity for you to, seize control of the situation of you being a championship caliber team. You have to go out there and fight every night, but at the same time, you got to really build with one another. And I know it's only 7 games in the season and things like that, but the Clippers should be a lot better than, I think, what is their record? 2-5 or 2-4, something like that, or 3-4 or something like that. The Clippers should be a lot better than that. They, like I said, bare minimum, they should be 5-2. If it's, I think it's 7 games played. Yeah, 7 games. 7 games played this season. They should be 5-2, bare minimum. Honestly, I think they should be undefeated, if you ask me. Because regardless of whether Kawhi sits out with knee stiffness or Robert Covington is out with a minor injury. I think Powell was dealing with a little injury too about a couple games ago. Regardless of who is out, who one player missing, the schedule that they've had these first several games have been very favorable for the Clippers. And when it gets tougher, that's when, we're really going to see what the Clippers are made of then. But I mean, this is my thing, take advantage of the easy schedule, take advantage of the so-called, non-playoff teams that you've played against so far. They played against the Lakers. They played against Houston. They played the Thunder twice. You see what I'm saying? Only playoff team I think that they played is the Phoenix Suns. And honestly, hell, I personally think, they could have beat the Phoenix Suns. Of course, if they had Kawhi Leonard, they definitely, I think, would have beat them. But my point is, that's a win they can get too. I mean, that's a little bit harder because the Suns were, a respectable number 1 seed, I think, last year. Well, I shouldn't say respectable. A lot of people, a lot of, fans I spoke to, about, just basketball in general, places that I go and people that I, speak to on other social media platforms. They were not as big on the Suns. I never been personally big on the Suns because I'm not a believer in Chris Paul. Never have been, never will be, never been a fan. Shout out to him, though. He is a great player. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I just don't believe in a Chris Paul operation. Anytime Chris Paul is on a team, I feel like he's trying to be too much of the boss or the coach on the court and go at players in a way where they don't respond to him the way he would like them to. And I feel like that's been his Achilles heel as a player. The reason why he's never seen the success of, getting a championship. Thank goodness for him, he at least been to an NBA Finals, because 16, 17 years in the league without even being in an NBA Finals is, mind blowing, for me. But still, he had an opportunity, to be in a championship. Good enough for him. But back to the topic, as I said, the Clippers need more of an identity. You can't lose games against the Thunder. They did beat the Rockets last night, and you did beat the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? But it's just one of those situations where I look at it where the team should be much better regardless. And like I said, I always put it on injuries and things like that. But also we have to start looking at the coaching staff, because you have got to put players in the right position to be at their best. Why the hell is Brandon Boston only getting minimal minutes? Why is Diabate only getting minimal minutes? It's like when you look at things like this, all that youth and young, energetic talent that they have, they should be throwing those guys out there. Because if PG is getting older, if Kawhi is getting older, if, Reggie Jackson is getting older, you know what I'm saying? Nicholas Batum has been older. Marcus Morris is getting older. You see what I'm saying? It's like, if you see that that's an issue, you know what I'm saying? If you're trying to win a championship, then give your guys as much rest as possible. You see what I'm saying? I know it's early in the season and, everybody wants to play and all that stuff, but I'm not saying you got to sit players out a whole game. I'm saying that there's some nights where PG, or Kawhi, or, let's just say Kawhi is playing. And let's hypothetically say, Kawhi is playing and PG is sitting out a game. You don't have to sit Kawhi out a whole game or PG out a whole game. If whoever's playing in that game, you can just, lessen their minutes, because you have so much talent on this team. Let Brandon Boston come in there. Let Jason Preston come in there. Diabate. Let Mir Coffee get a little more minutes. Along with T-Man and LK. Luke Kennard. So it's like it's to me, like, you don't have to you don't have to have Kawhi and PG to do all the work all through the season and all in the playoffs to put the team on their back. You don't have to do all that. You got so much talent on this team. There's some games where, like, now they're playing easier teams. I mean, hell, Paul George should be able to play, or Kawhi, if he's out there, they should be able to play 22, 23 minutes sometime and sit down and rest the rest of the game and move on to the next. And the Clippers still should be able to finish out games and beat every team they played so far. You know what I'm saying? Because Kawhi's been out the last several games, but still, I mean, I'm just giving a hypothetical. My point is, just because Kawhi and PG is out there on the floor, it doesn't mean they have to play, 29 minutes, 30 plus minutes. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't have to do all that this year, because with all the talent that they have, I mean, I know they're trying to build chemistry and continuity, but as much as, as healthy as they could be, but there's plenty of time for chemistry and continuity going forward. There's plenty of time for that. This is what I'm saying. There's some nights, and I want to see this going forward. I'm not sure if Ty Lue is going to do this, but it would be feasible. There's some nights I think that Kawhi and PG, they should play 22, 23 minutes, and that should be a night. They shouldn't have to play no more than that, because when you look at the Clippers bench, when you look at the Clippers as a whole, I mean, Robert Covington, Norman Powell, Brandon Boston could score. Yeah, I'm not sure about Jason Preston, but Diabate is a really good spark off the bench, and he is long with a wingspan. Amir Coffey can score. Luke Kennard is one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Terrence Mann is a really good defender, and he can get out on the break with John Wall. John Wall would love him on the break with him, on a fast break. You see what I'm saying? You got, you just got talent all over the board, and this is what I'm saying. I feel like the Clippers, they need to just, not put everything on Kawhi and PG all the time. I know they're the two guys. I know they're the main two, but save a lot of their talents and their specialness for the playoffs. You got all this other talent on the bench from top to bottom. These guys should be playing. I mean, Brandon Boston should be logging in some minutes right now. I mean, some real minutes, especially with Kawhi out. And like I said, even with PG playing, he shouldn't have to score 39 or 35 points to beat the Houston Rockets in a very nail-biting close game. You know what I'm saying? Well, I feel like the Clippers had control of the game. To me, I just don't feel like Houston could beat anybody. Houston could be about 25 points. I still feel like the other team can come back and beat them. That's just how I feel, because Houston just really doesn't. They don't have an identity. They don't have a team. They don't have anything. They just exist out there in Houston as a team that plays for the NBA. You see what I'm saying? That's how I look at them, because they're not rebuilding to me. It just doesn't seem like Houston's doing anything right as an organization. But my point is, you should beat a team like Houston by double digits. By accident. By default, you should beat them by 10 points, double digits, because it's like they don't have anything. And like I said, it shouldn't take Paul George to score 35 and 8 or something like that against a team like that just to beat them by 2 points. I mean, really, they should stomp a team like that. And this is my point. Ty Lue just needs to be better with his lineups and really exercise the option of allowing everybody to build. You're not building continuity if, Kawhi and PG have to play 30 plus minutes, or something like that with all this talent that they have. There should be some nights where they actually play 20 to 22 minutes or something like that. And that's really, good enough for them to get the victory. Because when they're playing teams like the Kings, teams like Houston, teams like the Thunder, their bench can beat teams like those. You don't really need Kawhi and PG to have 40, 50 points against teams like that. PG has already logged in a 41-point game, which that was against the Sacramento Kings, and he had his 35-point game last night against the Houston Rockets. He doesn't even need to score that amount of points against those teams to beat them. They got so much depth on their team. Paul George shouldn't have had to play more than about 20 minutes, and they still should be able to beat that team rather easily by double digits. And this is my point. It's something about the way Ty Lue is doing with this team. Like I said, I know Ty Lue could be a very stubborn guy. I mean, I've seen it in his coaching before when he coached Cleveland back in the day with LeBron and Kyrie. There was some stubbornness in the way he did his lineups, whereas the Cleveland Cavaliers were down 3-1 in that series, and all I thought he had to do really was, utilize more guys off his bench back then, to make up for Kevin Love and a couple other ones, give him a little bit more help. The rest wasn't there. And like I said, I know it was the finals, but Ty Lue, the way he coaches, he puts every onus, every bit of everything on his main guys. And like I said, when you look at that finals against, with Cleveland and the Warriors, I mean, Kyrie and LeBron scored like 40 every single game when they were down 3-1 to help them come back and win it. I mean, I think if I can remember correctly, they scored 40 at least two out of three of those games, to come back and win that series. And I think LeBron scored 40 all three of the games after they, went down 3-1 against the Warriors. I think Kyrie did 2 out of 3, but still, if you're gonna have, games like if players have to have games of that magnitude to win a championship under Ty Lue, there's something that he's doing wrong as a coach, because there again, Cleveland Cavaliers had a lot of talent on that team. I mean, you're talking about J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, LeBron, Kyrie, Iman Shumpert. Hell, they had an old Richard Jefferson. He still was decent. You see what I'm saying? They had a lot of talent on that team in regards to like guys who fit and, like I said, LeBron was in his prime. Kyrie was younger. I mean, they just was like, it was no doubt they were going to the finals, with that team. So this is what I'm saying. He's had teams with a lot of talent on there and found ways to blow it up in a bad way. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know it's part of, coaching experience and all that stuff, but Ty Lue just has to get better, with things like that, because whether Kawhi or PG is in the starting lineup, as I said, a schedule like they've had these last 7 games, they still should be 5-2 bare minimum. Even honestly, they should be 5-2 without Kawhi Leonard and PG. This team made to a play-in tournament last year, almost actually made the playoffs last year without Kawhi and PG. There's no reason why they shouldn't be 5-2 against the teams that they've played, because they've beaten teams better. Matter of fact, they beat the teams that they've played this year so far and teams better last year without Kawhi and PG. They beat them without those players. So there's no way in hell, if you got Kawhi or PG on the floor, at least one of the 2 star players, there's no way you shouldn't be 5-2 if you've had at least one of the star players the whole time in this season so far. There's no way. But this, like I said, it goes back to coaching sometime. My thing is, hurry up and find a way to build an identity, because if you don't, you'll be lost this season and you'll be trying to win off of talent. And as I said, the Clippers are good enough to win off talent. But when you do that, it takes more energy away from your star players, because they're out there every night putting up 30, 25 points each night when they really shouldn't have to do all that with all the talent that you have on this team. When you added John Wall, when you added Robert Covington and Norman Powell, that means with those 3 players right there, that means Kawhi and PG, as I said, they shouldn't play more than like 22, 23 minutes sometime. I mean, you could let them play 30 minutes, of course, like that, most of the season and stuff like that. But there should be some games. There should at least be 10 to 20 games out of this season where they play 20, 22 minutes and the Clippers still should win, even though they're sitting on the sideline laughing and joking about the game, talking about the next game they're about to go into. It should be like that, because you have enough talent to do that. So especially when you're playing a team like OKC or, a team like the Orlando Magic and stuff like that. I don't want to see Clippers playing teams like Orlando Magic and Kawhi or PG has to have 40 for them to win. I don't want to see that, because that tells me that there's a coaching deficiency there. That tells me something's not right, because when you're playing teams of lesser competition, yeah, you want Kawhi and PG to be out there still, but they shouldn't have to play to that level of greatness to beat a team like that. As I said last night with Houston, there's no way Paul George should really have to have 35 points to beat 35 and 6 or 8 or something like that to beat the Houston Rockets. There's really no way he should have to have that, because the Houston Rockets just aren't that good of a team. They have no identity. They don't even have no direction. So it's like, and they just gave you John Wall, basically. So it's like they gave you their most talented piece, and you're barely beating them with Paul George damn near scoring 40. Like I said, that's just my personal opinion. I just think there need to be better coaching put in place, and this team needs an identity. So if they get it, great. That'd be great. And it'd be a lot better for their championship aspirations as well. But here's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section. Check my other videos if you haven't. And hey, till next time.